Philadelphia. Today is the 6th February 2022, and that is a sermon summary. Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, this morning, as usual, sent his greetings to all Philadelphians in Ghana and abroad. He started on the note that he was so happy and has been happy since dawn because of a nice message delivered to him by his senior brother, the angel of Philadelphia. He said, because of the message, he was able to relate it to what he has experienced for the past 34 years. Even, he said, the past 34 years, he was able to see the way the church will look like as we experienced this morning. And the message the angel of Philadelphia gave to him was to establish the challenge that probably we have anticipated quite not long ago. The good angel said all Philadelphians should have their heart at peace because he has good tidings for them. Now, Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, went on further to explain that what we are experiencing currently was the same thing that happened during the era or time of Moses, when the Israelites were being liberated and were to be sent to the promised land. It was quite a hectic time for Moses because the magicians, the fetish priests, the masters who were the owners of most of the Israelites as their slaves were quite adamant and were reluctant to release them. And because of this, they rather doubled their sort of punishment or tax which they were to perform. However, God, being the good angel, descended by showering them with mercy and also with grace, that they were able to receive a lot of things from their masters as gifts. And even when Moses was taking them along on the path to the promised land, Satan made things quite difficult for them to the point that they had to remember the past, which was even better. And this was the time that God rescued them by granting them manna from heaven. He went on to say that Jesus' era, which was the second after that of Moses, had occurred. Christ also encountered a similar challenge. However, that of Christ was much related to the church itself, where the Sadducees, the scribes, scholars, and others were a challenge to him. Most did not accept him because they felt that the Messiah was not going to come from Jerusalem, where he had come from, or Bethlehem, rather. Now, when this challenge occurred, there were a lot of plots, some against Jesus Christ himself, and even against the disciples that he was with. And this, he said, all the time when there are these challenges, it ended through signs, miracles, and wonders. And this was the epitome of what Jesus Christ proclaimed while he was on earth. That his message that came out always ended with signs, wonders, and miracles. And this was able to expel all the rebellion against Christianity, to the point that when he even left, the people which were the disciples at that time were also united, and they were able to help all other Christians to move on. Now, counting this challenge, the third time that it has ever happened on earth is that of the era of the 8th generation, which is headed by Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God. So, just past weeks, there were a lot of lamentation about the insults, plots, and other things which had been hatched against him. However, the good Lord will always stand for us. And he wants us to understand that if this doesn't happen, then it means that he was not really following Christ. Because there is no servant who can be greater than the master. And whatever the master went through, similarly, the servant will also go through. And that is why he counts this joy on his 34th year in ministry. He said, if we are able to succumb to this, it is going to erode all the gains that has been made. However, if we become triumphant, then there will be many blessings as he had given unto us on 31st December, when he pronounced that there were going to be more and more and more blessings. He went on to explain that the blessings that are coming is not the blessing which are just meager, but they are in large quantities, to the point that he saw a 40-footer container, which is in a chain of 12, quite long, and within each there was someone like a driver seated up on it, and they were just tippling the blessings, which were many articles, some being household chores, utensils, personal belongings, anything that will make life comfortable for you. And this, Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah says that we should be looking forward to. But the condition is that it's going to pass through several channels. Some may be through people who will be our benefactors, and others too will come from maybe your office, wherever it is, in forms of promotions and several kinds. But you must take note that should this happen through your life, never give the glory to the person through whom that channel or window was open to you. We must bear in mind that God always uses other people as tools of instrument. We must give all the glory. We can bless the person, but the thanks is left alone for God. Now, Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, also took the opportunity to unveil his new book, which has been captioned Second Chance, a Rare Opportunity. Now, he said there has been a lot of people who had passed through Christianity for several years, but there is nothing that will serve as a record. So people have gone through the word and preached the message or the gospel to people, but at this point there is no root of it. He has been worried in the past because he felt that when his ministry is over, it was going to be difficult for people who are within this or subsequent generations be able to come into terms with what work he had come to do on earth. Luckily for him, that he's gotten some good people who had been able to put together all the messages that he had preached over time, and this time it has been put into a book. He said the purpose of the book is to preserve it and also to make sure that all Philadelphians do not lose focus of their foundation, and it is eminent that all should make sure they get one. He now asks all Philadelphians, old or young, to make sure that you buy some of this book and keep, so that at least generation yet to be born will also have access to the message. All subsequent preachings are also going to be captured in this form of book, so that at least we'll get opportunity to read and also be able to correct our mistakes as we move on. The book did not come alone. There was also a request from other people about the need for a calendar for the year 2022, because he had promised that there were going to be many, many blessings. So at least we could get track of marking the blessings as they come on our calendar. Unfortunately, after it has also been published, a lot are still in stock, and many Philadelphians are yet to come to buy their copies. So on this note, he is asking all Philadelphians to know that the year of construction is certainly ongoing, and there is a need to make sure that all monies that have been put into this project be released. So the price per copy of the book is 30 cedis, while that of the calendar is 10 cedis. So we should make sure we're able to take all the stock out as soon as possible, so we'll have enough money to work on our projects. Now, Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, also explained to us that when Jesus was about to leave this earth, he had a lot of time to pray with the disciples. However, the disciples probably thought that it was because he was departing, he was finding it difficult to leave them. They did not take note of what was happening. It was when he had left that they realized that there were a lot of challenges ahead of them. So all the prayers were rather to empower them so they could resist the challenges which were going to come in their path. And so Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, also is telling us we should all make sure that we are able to take up the mantle and move on. Now, today he settled on Ephesians 6 and read from the verses 10 to 12. So if it could be projected for us, I'll be quite happy, so others can also follow up. Ephesians 6 verse 10. I'm reading. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, was asking us, why should we be strong? Why should we be strong? He noted that because of the challenges that are ahead, if you don't get yourself strengthened, so when the challenges come, you could mount it, there is no way you're going to be able to survive. He said these challenges that we are talking about are not going to be far from us. Some will be so near to us that in a household, you find your wife being the challenge. It may be your boss at your workplace, and even sometimes at your place of worship. But all that you have to take note of is that there is a good Lord, and so there is a need for you to gird your loins so that you'll be able to withstand when the challenge comes. And what is this power that we are referring to? Now, he's saying that there are a lot of things that come our way, and we believe that it is what we have that enables us to receive what we are looking forward ahead. That is why he says some believe in their horses, others in their chariots. But for Philadelphians, we believe in the sovereign God. Why first talking about the horses? When you are in need and you have to walk, it will take you time. But horses are very fast. And so by the time you, the one walking on foot, is aware, the one on horseback has already gotten to the point and received whatever he's looking for. Others will also use vessels, which are the chariots, and that is also comfortable and also able to get you to the location on time for you to receive your blessings. However, those of us who believe in God the Almighty will have to wait and be patient. It takes time for us to reach our goal, but whatever it takes, the good Lord will always see us through. Because for us, we receive abundantly, and whatever we receive is also perpetual. He's talking about the point that people decide to go to church and they start paying their tithe and offering. However, they forget that there is the need to equip themselves first with the power of God. And if that is not done, before you realize that there will be some sort of pronouncement, some even at the church place, which will take you off board. And if you are not careful, before you realize, you have been taken off course. How come that you say that your Father is in heaven, but you go to the church and the pastor addresses you that you have been bewitched, and you go praying just to make sure that witchcraft or witches are gunned down? And this is saying that it is because you didn't get your loins before you prepared yourself to take the mantle as a Christian. Now, I'll move on to the next verse. Let's look at verse 11 first. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, asks us that when you go to the church and the pastor makes pronouncements talking about spirits, witchcraft, and others, he asks the question, what is the Bible telling us? Are we fighting against flesh, blood, or principalities of darkness? Unfortunately, as we move on to get to the fact, you see that whatever we do is pointed to something else. And because of that, we always lose our focus. And that is something that has withdrawn a lot of people from the church. Some even to the point that after waiting for a while, they are not able to withstand the challenge that goes with it. They move out of the comfort zone where God is and even move deeper into the point where they go into fellowship with Satan because they did not anticipate the power in God's word. And because of that, they didn't have the resistance. Now, why do we have to pray to go into witches' camps to be able to untie what witches have done unto us? Is that what the Bible tells us? Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, wants us to understand that if that is the way that we want to go, then it means we are not Christians. And we should be able to find out how we got into this system as Christians. Now, what do we mean by the wiles of the devil? You see, even Jesus Christ was tempted by the devil several times. Jesus was hungry, and the devil comes to him. Why not turn these stones into bread, so at least you could quench the hunger? Jesus, being wise, knew very well that stones, if they turn into bread and you eat, by all means, there is a challenge ahead of you. Probably you will constipate for a long time, and that may lead to your death. He told him that man must not live by bread alone, but by the word of God that cometh forth. Most of us are not able to direct our challenge to where it's supposed to go. We believe that things that are happening to us are coming from relations or people around us. But like he said, wherever we tie the knot is where we have to untie it. So if the challenges are from the heavens, why do we look at the earth? Or why do we have to untie the things down on earth? We should know that it is only God, the superior God, who has authority, that whatever happens in our life is certainly by him. However, Satan always tries to use wise or deceiving us through things that sometimes we don't even take note of. How come they tell you that your mother is a witch, and as such, you're not supposed to even send any remittance to that person. There are a lot of people who are willing to even support their families, but they could not do so. And one thing that happened this 31st, that is 2021, 31st, was that when he had pronounced of the several blessings, in fact, there were many homes who also confirmed that fact, because for centuries they have never had their siblings, their parents, or all family members converging to have Christmas celebrated. The reason is that one is a witch, one is full of evil spirit, or because of that kind of family covenant which has been used as something to brainwash them. And this has been a challenge to many Christians. And Stephen Adom Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, wants all of us to take cue from it. And now, be wise, because the devil will always use that tool to deceive us. At the end of the day, it will look like we, on the 1st of April, when somebody has promised you something and you rush in there without thinking about the date, only to be made April Fool. Now let's move on to verse 12. This is where the detail of the challenges of most Christians lie. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. Stephen Adom Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, made us understand that most often you find people praying against people in their lives. But he was asking, when you read this verse, what were we cautioned about? Were we asked to pray against human beings? Because we lack knowledge, we have all fallen foul to this little deceit from the devil. We are told that all our challenges come from people who are close to us. But common sense should tell us that we are not talking about flesh. He explained that when we talk about principalities, which has been an albatross around the neck of Christians from past generations to this point, principalities are simply various sayings of old which were used as a way of deterring people from doing things which probably could be harmful to themselves. I would say that they were sort of scarecrow that was used to put people at bay. However, it has lived through generations, and when this statement is made, we are not able to decipher into its meaning, and we take it hook, line, and sinker. And because of that, we also just would say that our homes are difficult ones. Our backgrounds are quite challenging. There is even some homes who are made to believe that the people were barren several years back, and there was a need for people to give birth. So in exchange for children, they had to succumb all their wealth. That is why those families are poor. And for them, you get all the children you want in this world, but poverty will be part of your life. He's telling us that yes, we should beware that when we talk about principalities, because it is not about flesh, it's one of the wills that the devil is using. If you are really a Christian, you have been born again. And once you have been born again, it means you are a new creature. And all the old past things on hearsays do not bind you. And if you're a Christian, you should be able to summon that. All you need is to make sure that you give this advice to other people in the family, so they will also be able to have their breakthrough. It doesn't require you to use prayer materials of any kind to be able to get out of this challenge. It's just a word of caution that you have to be careful and know exactly what you're supposed to do. He is talking about you when you are given that kind of urgent need to change your lifestyle. You are old as a woman, and they are pointing to your younger siblings having delivered a lot of children, without even taking caution to think about what the challenge will be. You jump in, you give birth first, second, third, fourth, even not thinking about a husband who is going to stay and help you take care of these children. When you now get into poverty, you allay this poverty to witchcraft, and you've forgotten that you did not do well by assessing those who are ahead of you, the challenges they are going through because of the numerous children that they have. He cited a situation as hopeless, like that of a crab, which is crawling and its kid also crawling. Which one is going to hold the other to support? They will all certainly not be able to survive. Now, I want to also look at the other point, talking about the powers that we look at within this context. He said that sometimes the powers that may be a challenge to you will be situations or scenarios where, as a Philadelphian, now people even see stickers at your shop and they decide not to buy from you. However, you should know that on such days, it's rather going to be the days you make sales which are higher than ever seen in your life. Because the good angel will always be on the rescue mission. And that is quite challenging. But it's only a few who are able to survive. Even at your workplace, your bosses, who probably have promised promoting you, will tell you that they have abandoned that idea. All you have to do is wait patiently, because we are not relying on horses nor chariots, but we want to depend on God, who is going to support us and make us go through things easily. Stephen Adum Kyei-Duah, the voice of God, decided that today there was not the need to complete this message, because it entails a lot which has caused many Christians to struggle. Most of the watch nights, prayer materials we use, and the type of actions that we portray back in home and in church are all related to what we have in this verse. And in order for us to understand clearly, he decided to shelve it so that we'll be able to have further explanation come next week. So next, he went on to talk about the Philadelphian money that was supposed to be shared. He said, luckily, what we have prayed for all the past months in spirit has now matured physically. All that is left is to make sure that we are able to send this money to the beneficiaries as soon as possible. Talking about putting money into more than 7,000 envelopes to be carried along will be quite an arduous task. So the bankers have put in a plan to make sure that checks are sent through the various brothers who man the centers from which all those applications came from. And that very soon the monies will get to the people directly, because it is through these brothers that applications came, and certainly they will be able to locate them easily without challenge. Same money sharing, he said that there was also 200 people who were actually earmarked to receive 1,000 Ghana cedis because of their age. Their age was pegged 70 plus. However, running through the systems, it was noted that many people were below that age. So only a few people were to receive. They had to come to lower age, and right now, people who are 65 years and above are all earmarked to receive the 1,000 Ghana cedis. However, we should also know that no single person will receive both the 1,000 Ghana cedis and then the 1,002, which is through an application. If you chance to be one of such people or applicants, he's asking you to release the 1,000, which is a lower denomination, and take the 1,200. For we have to be honest to ourselves. And because this plan has been put in place, all should know that the brothers are meeting today to make sure they help them to run through the receipt of these checks. Thank you for listening unto us, but we want you to understand that if you want an in-depth information about the sermon, then join us on the Learn from the Prophet after the other summaries have been given. You can subscribe, you can share with friends, so that when it's time, you'll be able to have a notification. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye-bye.